Hey, Derrick, guess what?
Hit me with it.
We just got a promotion with Audible.
Audible, fantastic. I love Audible.
Do you know what the cool thing about this deal is?
What's that?
If our listeners go to audibletrial.com/supercinemapod, they get a free trial with Audible. And do you know what they get with that?
What do they get with that? Tell me.
They get one free audiobook of their choice, and they get 2 free Audible originals, which is special content that Audible makes available free for all its subscribers.
Are you kidding me? That deal is so good, I may go myself and sign them.
Do you think they let you keep the books after you're done?
No, you're not going to tell me they let you keep the books after you're done.
Yes. In fact, you can go sign up for a trial, and you can cancel before the trial ends, and you get to keep the books you've already downloaded.
Well, I don't see how you can beat that with a stick.
Exactly, yeah. And you can, lots of great books, especially for fans of this show. You can listen to Super Gods by Grant Morrison, which is all about like how the superhero comics have changed and evolved over time. Or you can check out Marvel Comics, The Untold Story.
Which is a terrific book. I have that both in hardcover, and I listen to that on Audible myself in my car while traveling back and forth.
And there's also another similar book that's called Slugfest, which is about like the wars between Marvel and DC Comics.
Oh, okay.
So that's another one you got to check out too. So yeah, head on over to audibletrial.com/supercinemapod and start your free trial right now. You get 1 free audiobook and 2 free Audible originals, and you can keep them even if you cancel before it's over.
What happened, Jimmy?
You were in a car accident. I found you, pulled you out. And have a pickle.
No, good.
Just take one.
I don't want a pickle.
I don't care if you want one, you need it. Just take one.
What are you talking about I need it?
Pickles preserve you when you change, Max. They give you strength. Otherwise, you get all screwed up jumping from body to body.
You know?
Of course I know. Who do you think got rid of that Putz Ludlow? That stiletto heel made quite a mess, kid.
That was you? How?
You see, the thing is, I'm not just a barber, Max. I'm also a cobbler.
Welcome to the Superhero Cinephiles podcast. I am half of your host, Perry Constantine.
And as always, I am the other half, Derrick Ferguson.
So I think first off, we should probably talk about, as you would say, the elephant in the room, and that's the passing of Chadwick Boseman.
Yeah, that was, you talk about, and you know what, don't get me wrong. I mean, I mourn the death of anybody, when they pass away, especially somebody who passes, especially somebody as talented as this man and at such a young age. But usually celebrities, I don't get like really choked up about it. I am not ashamed to admit that I cried when I heard this man had died. Yeah.
I mean, I got emotional about it too. And, just like, what killed me was going on social media and seeing all the photos of kids, arranging their Avengers action figures around a fallen Black Panther figure and just doing the Wakanda salute. I mean, that got me. I had to get away from the computer for a while because, I mean, seriously, it was just, I mean, such a shock in a year that has given us so many shocks already. Yeah. And so much tragedy and so much heartache and so much everything. This is just another one. And it was a fresh one. Yeah. This wasn't one that we could just shrug off and say, okay, some more shit happened. No, right. This was really felt deep. Yeah. And as we were saying earlier before we started recording, I think it was because the role he played in the movie he was in was such a worldwide cultural phenomenon on a scale we haven't seen in like decades. Exactly. And, it touched everybody. That movie, I mean, everybody embraced that movie.
I was describing it to people, and I'm like, what so many kids are experiencing now, that's what I experienced when Christopher Reeve died.
Exactly. Yeah.
And even harder for them because, I was an adult. I was like, I was an adult already when Christopher Reeve died. So I'm like, imagine like losing the superhero who had given you so much hope and, had been such a role model for you, both on and off the screen. I mean, he was just, let's not minimize the fact that, he played an amazing character. He gave an amazing performance, several amazing performances, Jackie Robinson, James Brown, Thurgood Marshall, all these amazing roles he played. And he was such a chameleon on screen, right? I was re-listening to our Black Panther episode last night, and I mentioned how every time I heard Boseman speak in an interview and he's using his real voice, like I was always like so taken out of, like, it was like such, I was so taken aback because his accent as T'Challa was so natural and he was so good in that role that I really believed he was, an African native.
Yeah. I mean, there was a reason why he could play such an extraordinary human being on screen so convincingly, because he actually was an extraordinary human being.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people have been sharing the clip that he talks about these two black boys who had cancer and how their anticipation for Black Panther, and then he had found out that they died before the movie had come out, and he just, I'm getting choked up even talking about it, but like he broke down during the interview talking about this, and it's so much more profound when now we know, like, he was in that same situation.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just, oh God, that was just such a gut punch.
Oh, it's such a good, and and you know how much the movie Black Panther, how much it meant to it. That was the movie I had been waiting all my life to see.
Yeah.
First time I saw it in the theater, I'm sitting there and the end credits is coming up and I'm applauding and cheering like a madman. I'm smiling. There's tears coming down my face because I was just so overjoyed that, this was, there is a God. This is the movie I had been waiting to see all my life, and I got it. And I was looking forward to seeing Black Panther 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6, and to think of what would have been, and now we're not going to see it.
Yeah.
As well as all the other work that he would have done, because I would listen. If you haven't seen Get On Up, folks, you got to see that one. Get On Up is like, wow, that's like a nuclear bomb blast. I mean, that movie was amazing when I had seen it before, and I didn't know about his health issues, and I was astonished at his physicality, because he did all his dancing in that movie, and he got James Brown down. But now that I know he did that while he was battling cancer as well,
I know, yeah.
Holy shit! And I complain like a little baby when I got a stomachache.
Oh God, yeah.
And this man had cancer, and he went out and made feature motion major motion pictures with stunts and special effects and all this kind of stuff. And
he wasn't slacking off on the body the physical aspects. I mean, you look at him when he's like shirtless in the scenes in Black Panther during the combat trials, and it's just like that guy is friggin' ripped.
Yeah. I mean, I said to Patricia, you know what? I'm never gonna complain again when I'm sick. I'm just not. I'm not.
Yeah.
It is just truly humbling to think of what this man did.
He was so committed to his performance that, I mean, he's going through surgeries, he's going through chemotherapy, and he's still getting his body in peak physical condition for these roles, and giving it his all in these performances. And he had so much work left to do. I mean, he was supposed to be in the movie about Yasuke, who was the black samurai in feudal Japan. And I was just, and I thought about that after. I'm like, oh my God, that's right. He was supposed to be Yasuke, and that would have been such an amazing movie. And to think about, and also like I had I was expecting him to be the next RDJ for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Right?
Yeah.
That was like the direction they were headed in. He's going to be the new Iron Man.
Right. That was definitely the way that I felt that they was going to go, that he was going to step into that void left by Tony Stark, Robert Downey Jr. Yeah, that that he was going to be the man.
Yes. And you can tell they were so leaning in that direction. That's the direction that they wanted to go in. That's the direction. Because you've got the whole, and we're going to be talking about this next week, because spoilers, my choice for next week is going to be Captain America Civil War. Because I think it's only appropriate. Because we already did an episode on Black Panther, so Civil War is the next best thing. And we're going to be talking about a Chadwick Boseman tribute episode. And in that movie, he's brought into this world in such a big way. And then you see him in Black Panther. And the end of Black Panther, when there's this, when he goes to the UN and he tells them that, Wakanda is going to open its doors to the rest of the world. And that's just, and that little smile he has when they ask him, what can Wakanda offer the world? And he's got that little smirk on his face. You just know, it's like, oh, you've got no idea what's coming.
You got no idea. Yeah. I know that little smirk he does. He does it, and it's the same smirk, but it has a completely different meaning at the very end of the movie when the little kid asks him, the little black boy asks him, "Who are you?" And he gives him his little thing, but it's got a totally different meaning. Where he said, "Oh, you're gonna know who I am."
Yeah.
Oh wow, it's just, just such an amazing movie. I watched the thing, even though I got it on Blu-ray first day it came out. I watched the thing they had on Sunday night here in the States on ABC. They showed it completely with no commercials.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Yeah. They did a little editing for language here and there, and they cut out one scene. But except for that, they showed it with no commercials. And then afterwards, they had like a little special tribute where they had people that had worked with him and knew him, Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, Scarlett Johansson, like most of the people from the Avengers movie.
Yeah.
They spoke about him, some of the people that he worked with in the Spike Lee movie, The Five Bloods.
Oh, he was in that too.
Yeah, he was. As a matter of fact, so that's the movie everybody thought that because he had that weight loss. And everybody had figured he had lost the weight for that movie. Because he was a lot thinner in that movie than we had seen him, previously. So everybody said, oh, well, he must have lost weight for that movie. But such was not the case. So
wow, yeah.
But you know what? I have to say that I'm grateful to God for the time that we did have him here.
Yeah.
Because I know that my life was enriched by seeing him play Black Panther. And we do have that movie for generations. And I would hope that it's a movie that keeps getting passed down from generation to generation,
Yeah.
No matter what happens with the character in future. But
we had talked about this before we hit record, but I do just want to mention that I think that, as we both talked about, like this, everybody talking about what are they going to do about Black Panther 2? It's like, don't worry about Black Panther 2, right? They'll figure something out, right? Let's just celebrate this man's life. And
can we? Can we decently bury him? Can we have that much respect and let and just wait until the man is properly put to rest first before we start worrying about who gets his job?
Right. And also, and on the flip side too, because there have been both extremes on this, and I've seen the other side be like, no one should ever again play T'Challa for the rest of time, which I think is depriving so many generations of Black kids of these different interpretations of their iconic character. As a white kid, I've had dozens of different interpretations of Superman and Batman, and and obviously take the amount of time, but don't say that nobody else should ever be allowed to touch this role, because you're depriving future generations of Black kids and Black actors as well from being able to have this character as part of their lives.
Yeah. I've never been a fan of or understood this thing that only one actor can play like a certain role. If they had thought that 50 years ago, well, we wouldn't be on our sixth James Bond then.
Right.
I mean, Sean Connery left and they said, okay, well, we got to find a new James Bond. And that's it. They just said we got to find a new James Bond.
I mean, we never even would have gotten Christopher Reeve or Michael Keaton with that attitude.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I mean, it's or Chris Evans as Captain America, right? We never would have, because we had Reb Brown and what's his name, Matt Salinger before that.
I don't understand this thing about why you can't have somebody younger play Indiana Jones and we can have more Indiana. This whole stupid. Well, nobody else but Harrison Ford can play. And we're bullshit.
Yeah. And I can't remember his name, but the young guy who played him in Solo, I thought he did a great job.
Well, exactly. This is what I'm saying. Why don't you give the guy that did Solo, let him play it?
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, start a tradition. Anybody who plays Han Solo also has to play Indiana Jones from now on. Start a tradition.
That's a good role. I like that.
Yeah, serious.
But now we're getting what's his name? Donald Glover is going to be doing more Lando Calrissian stuff, right? They're going to be getting like a Lando movie or TV show or something.
I've heard the rumors that it's either going to be a Lando TV series, like a mini series, or Disney Plus, or it's going to be a movie, for Disney Plus. They're going to do a Lando Calrissian movie. But yeah, I mean, we got to get past this thing that, you're always going to have certain actors that are your favorite in playing a role.
Right.
Michael Keaton is always going to be my favorite, but that doesn't stop me from watching, Christian Bale.
Right.
Or, it doesn't stop me from watching those movies at all. It's just that, Michael Keaton happens to be my favorite. That's all,
exactly.
That's all it is.
I mean, same here. And like we've obviously talked about Christopher Reeve a lot in the show. Obviously, he's my favorite Superman. He's what I've always pictured that character to be. But that doesn't mean that I don't want to see Brandon Routh get another go around like he did in Crisis, or that doesn't mean I'm not looking forward to Tyler Hoechlin in Superman and Lois, and I'd love to see Henry Cavill get to play Superman in a movie directed by someone who actually likes Superman.
Exactly. That's all it means. And I mean, trust me, the brain trust at Disney is working on that even as we speak. Yeah. Probably. They say, okay, well, what are we going to do? Yeah. And, of course, you have the fans who believe that they should be consulted about every damn thing that goes on. No, actually, the fans are the last ones that should be consulted about anything as far as I'm concerned. And we just lost 10% of our listeners. But I don't care. Seriously, the fans are the last ones that should be consulted about anything.
Oh, absolutely.
Really.
Yeah.
Really. Because there's a lot of, because they just run on pure, what's the best word I could put?
Emotion. I think emotion. I'd say emotion.
Okay, yeah.
That's maybe putting it kindly.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm trying to put it kindly. Pure emotion. That's all they run on.
And even though I'm a writer, like I've been guilty of this, having fanboy moments myself. I remember when they did when they announced the Superior Spider-Man comic book, right? And they said, "Oh, Dr. Octopus has taken over Peter Parker's body. He's going to be Spider-Man going forward." My first reaction was like, "That's some bullshit." And then, and I'm like, this is like the worst thing Marvel's ever done to the character, blah blah blah. And then a few months go by, and people are saying like, "You know what? This book is really good. You should give it a try." I'm like, no. I'm never going to read that book. I'm never going to read it. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm like, all right, fine. You know what? Everyone's talking about it. I'm going to read it, and I'm going to hate read this thing. So I start reading it. God damn if it's not one of the best Spider-Man stories I ever read.
Yeah. Oops.
Yeah. So then I'm like, and I talked to Dan Slott about this on Twitter. Like I told him, like, I tweeted him, and you know what? I'm like, I was one of those people who's like, this is horrible. Fuck Dan Slott. Fuck Spider-Man. Fuck Marvel. And then I read the book, and I'm like, God damn, that's really good shit. And he liked the tweet. He liked it.
How many pounds of crow did you have to eat?
Oh God, yeah. It's like you with paying back everybody for Black Panther.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So just let them do their thing. They know what they're doing. They'll figure stuff out.
Yeah, exactly. You know what? I can't burn up my brain cell. I have enough trouble trying to figure out my own original shit than worrying about what Disney is going to do with their property. And know what? Go by their track record, folks. We've seen what they've done over the last, with those 22 amazing movies, that they did, they have a proven track record that they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't you trust them going forward with this, that, they're going to make the right decision.
Yeah. All right. So shall we jump into today's movie, talk about something a little bit more pleasant?
Okay.
And that's your pick, the Cobbler. And I got to ask you, why did you, because I'm sure everybody's wondering too. So addressing the new elephant in the room that just walked in, why did you pick this movie for superhero movies?
Okay. I picked it because I saw this movie. It's on Amazon Prime now. I watched it earlier today in preparation for this because I haven't seen it in a while. I saw it like years ago when it was on Netflix, because it's not a new movie. It's about like 5 years old. And
it came out in 2014.
Yeah, and I'm not a big Adam Sandler fan, but I watched it because a friend of mine said, "Yeah, well, you need to watch this." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Well, it's Unbreakable." I said, "Wait a minute. You talk about M. Night Shyamalan Unbreakable?" He said, Yeah. He said, "It's just like that. Trust me." I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah, watch it." He said, "You'll understand when you watch it." So it's a friend that I kind of trust. I wouldn't leave my wallet with him, but, or my wife, but, when it comes to movies, he's pretty reliable. So I'm sitting there, I'm watching the movie, and about 45 minutes into the movie, I say to myself, "Oh shit, you know what? Gary was right." Because 45 minutes into the movie, I realized that no, I'm not watching an Adam Sandler comedy. I'm watching an Adam Sandler superhero origin movie.
Yeah. And that was one of the things that really jumped out to me, because you hear Adam Sandler and you've got a certain expectation of what kind of character he's going to be playing. You're going to be looking at a comedy with a lot of goofy moments. You're going to see him doing his man baby stick and all that kind of stuff. And that's fine. He's found something that works for him, and that people pay him money to do. But this is one of those movies where he steps out of that role into something different, and he's very subdued in this.
He actually plays a recognizable human being in this movie. He's not, like you said, he's not playing the goofy man baby. And I think that's part of why this movie, because this movie was a bomb. Nobody liked this movie. And I think it was because Adam Sandler played against type.
Yes.
In this movie, everybody was expecting to go in and see him do the goofy man baby type of thing, or they're expecting like the toilet humor. And there's none of that in this. Matter of fact, there's a lot of heart in this movie. There's some nice emotional moments, and we see Adam Sandler, coming to grips with this ability that he has. And I like the fact that, well, first of all, before we get into all this, I'm going to give the folks a brief summary. If you don't mind.
Because this is one of those movies where, I'm guessing like 90% of our audience has not seen this movie. So this is one of those movies that normally we go in with the impression that, you've probably seen the movie we're going to talk about today. But this is one of those movies that probably nobody has seen. So yeah, a plot summary is totally warranted, I think.
Right, yeah. Which is why, remember last week, I had heavily advised people, you really should watch this before we talk about it, so you know what we're talking about. Okay, Adam Sandler plays Max Simkin. He's a shoe man. He's a cobbler. He repairs shoes. He has a little shop on the Lower East Side of Manhattan that has been in his family for generations. And, he's not making a lot of money. He's taking care of his elderly mother who, she goes in and out, if you know what I mean.
She's obviously got like Alzheimer's or something like that.
Yeah. So, but he's doing the best he can. He works hard. He's fixing shoes all day long. In the shop next door to him is his best friend, Jimmy, played by our old friend, Steve Buscemi.
Yes. Yeah.
Who's great in the supporting
role in this movie. I will not give away, the details of his relationship with the Adam Sandler character, but it's wonderful. And anyway, so he's repairing these shoes and everything like that. So one day, this gangster comes in, played by Method Man.
Yeah.
Who gives him a pair of shoes and says, well, you better have these shoes fixed by 6 o'clock and blah, blah, blah. And they go back and forth. Okay, so he fixes the shoes. So while he's waiting for him, he tries on the shoes and he looks up in the mirror and he looks exactly like Method Man.
Yeah.
Now, I should point out here that in the course of while he was fixing Method Man's shoes, his machine broke. So Max had to take out this old machine that was used by his father and his grandfather and his great-grandfather to put new soles on these shoes.
Right, and this harkens back to the beginning of the movie, the opening, which took place in the early 1900s, where there's a group of these Jewish men. They're gathered in the cobbler's shop, and this cobbler is Max's great-grandfather,
Right.
Pincus, I think his name. And he says, and they say to him, you know what, there's this gangster who's trying to run us out of our businesses. He's harassing us and our families. And Pincus says, he's like, well, I can't do anything. He's not a customer of mine. And they hand him a pair of the crook shoes, like he is now. And so he takes the shoes and he goes down into his shop, and his son Herschel comes out, and Pincus explains to him that one day your grandfather, I think it was like your grandfather, I think it was, or great something like that. He's like, there was an angel came to Earth, and nobody would give him shelter except our relative, our ancestor. And he says he gave him shelter. He gave him food and bed for the night, and he fixed his shoes. And the next morning, the angel was gone, and in his place was this stitching machine. It's a very special machine, and that's the machine that Max finds in the basement when he's trying to find some way to continue working on these shoes.
Right. So he puts so apparently the deal with this machine is that if Max puts a new pair of soles on these shoes and then he puts on the shoes, he takes on the appearance of whoever owned those shoes.
Yeah.
So we see him, he's frantically going through the shop, and he spends all that first night, much like Superman flying through Metropolis on the first night. He takes all these shoes and puts new soles on them and tries them on.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's all these different people. And, he say, oh my God, and then he starts figuring out what he can do with this. And there's like a montage that we have where he's an Asian and he just walks through Chinatown and he's hanging out in Chinatown. You know
what? I got to say, was it just me, or was this montage a little bit on the racist side? Because, he goes, I mean, first off, since when can a non-Chinese person not go into Chinatown? But he goes into Chinatown, and then he's like laughing. He's like, "Oh, listen to my accent," and like,
it's a different world.
Yeah, and then
like
also
he's on another planet. Yeah.
But also, every time he commits a petty crime, right? Like he eats at the restaurant and then he runs out without paying the bill, or he goes up to another guy and he steals his shoes. In both those cases, he's a black guy.
But okay, I get your point. But he always does that as a guy who's a criminal anyway.
Well, not the first black guy. I don't know if that guy was a criminal or not. The guy at the restaurant.
When he goes to the restaurant and eats for free?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah. He's another black guy.
Yeah. So
just like, yeah. As if that makes it any better. Oh, no.
Yeah.
That black.
No, he was a different black crook. So that
he was a different black guy. Oh man, this conversation just went. But okay, I'll grant you that. I gotta admit to you, I didn't think about that when I was watching it, because I'm watching it, and what struck me was that, he finds out he has this ability to look like different people, and his first thought is not to be altruistic about it. Like you said, he does things like he goes into a fancy restaurant and he eats an expensive meal.
Yeah.
And then he goes into the bathroom and he puts on a different pair of shoes and walks out as another person, you know.
Yeah.
So he's thinking of all these things that he could do, like to benefit himself. And, you know, he thinks about sleeping with the supermodel that lives down the block.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, yeah.
But and you know that was another one that was, well, he tries to sleep with two different women, right? First, there's that woman who approaches him in the bar, right?
Yeah.
She's like, oh, you're a DJ. I saw you spinning at this club. And she's like, but you were interested in that supermodel. So, and he's like, oh, yeah, that's my girlfriend. She's like, no, it wasn't. It was a guy. It's like, oh,
it wasn't.
So Emiliano's up to some hanky-panky behind the scenes. And so they get into the car, and he's like, all right, let's go back to your place. She's like, no, we can't. My boyfriend's there. And he's like, okay, well, we'll go back to my place then. Let me just call my mom, let her know, so she doesn't get surprised. And she's like,
she looks at him and she said, where do you live at? He said, oh, Sheepshead Bay.
Yeah. He's like, I live in Sheepshead Bay with my mom. And then it cuts to him getting out of the cab. All right, have a good night.
Yeah. So, you know, he's finding out that there are drawbacks to being other people.
And then when he goes to, I think her name is Taryn, he goes to her place as Emiliano to sleep, and, you know, to sleep with her. Because he bumps into the real Emiliano when he's walking around. And he sees, oh, that's his house. He goes in, and then he goes into the apartment. And then, you know, she's like, yeah, come on in the shower with me. And he starts taking off his clothes, and he realizes when he's taking off his pants, like, shit.
Yeah,
if I got to take off my shoes to take off my pants, if I take off my shoes, she's going to know I'm not the real guy. So then
she's going to know I'm not right.
Yeah. Which, so, you know, he doesn't end up sleeping with either of these women under false pretenses, but it's not because he's being moral about it. It's because he just physically can't.
No. And like I said, that's one thing that I like about this movie is that he learns to be altruistic. He learns to use this power he has for a good purpose. He doesn't just start out, you know. In other words, it's the whole with great power will come great responsibility thing. You know, that's the lesson that he learns during the course of this movie, because he had the, what was the girl's name? Carmen. She was coming to him and saying, well, I need your help.
Right.
You know, like our neighborhood is being gentrified, and people are, you know, small business owners such as yourself are being driven out by the rich white fat cats and stuff like that. And he kind of brushes her off. You know, Carmen is kind of like his burglar. Yeah. In that he brushes her off, and then, you know, she comes back and he has to make amends, you know, for what he's done once he's found out that he has this power and he's learned how to use it.
Yeah, and then he also gets, you know, he's going after the Method Man's character, Leon, to try and steal his watches. Right?
Who has bragged about this collection of watches that he has. So when his mother, spoiler folks, passes away, and there's a very poignant scene where because his mother had expressed to him in one of the moments,
right? Because he said, if you could do anything you wanted, right? If you could be anyone, who would you be? And you know, well, first she says, she's like, I'm your mother. I don't need to be anyone else, which was I thought was like a little nice moment between them. But then
that was so like, sweet. Yeah,
and she's like, the only thing I want is to have one more dinner with your father. And so he puts on his dad's shoes. And they've been hinting at that, right? Because he takes his dad's shoes out and he looks at them. And this one night he finally does it. He fixes the soles, he puts them on, and he turns into Dustin Hoffman.
Yeah.
Which, you know what I noticed? Because I was surprised. Because you had mentioned last week that Dustin Hoffman was in this movie. And I'm sitting down there with Kotano, and we're watching it. I'm watching the opening credits. And maybe I blinked and I missed it, but I did not see Dustin Hoffman's name in the opening credits.
No, it's not. Dustin
Hoffman's name. I'm watching, I'm like, did Derrick get this mixed up with another movie? Did he think Dustin Hoffman he mistake whoever this guy is for Dustin Hoffman or something? But then we get to that scene. I'm like, oh, that is Dustin Hoffman.
And you know what? I think he did that. I think he did that because his total screen time really doesn't amount to a whole lot.
Right.
You know, so maybe he just didn't feel like, you know, or maybe he just wanted to keep it secret. He was in the movie.
Yeah.
I don't know. But that scene, like all of the scenes with his mother, you know, are very sweet and very gentle.
And there is a real feeling when she passes away, and he's sitting out by himself in the backyard.
Well, there's actually another time when Dustin Hoffman did this, where he was, basically uncredited or like not involved in any promotion, and that was when he played Lisa's substitute teacher on The Simpsons, right? Because he was. I had watched that episode the other a few months ago or something, and I'm watching it, and there's all the references to The Graduate and all that, and I'm like, that's Dustin Hoffman.
Yep.
And then I get to the credits, and I'm like, I got to double check because that's got to be Dustin Hoffman, but his name didn't appear in the credits. His name does not appear in the credits. He used a pseudonym in that show. So that was another time when he went basically uncredited in something because you're right. Like in this one, his role is not that major.
It's a pivotal role. It is, as we eventually learn. It's a very pivotal role. But in terms of like total screen time, he's really not on screen for like much of the movie.
It's probably 10 minutes at most.
If even that.
Yeah.
But so once he finds out he has this ability, then a large part of the movie, we spend a large part of the time with him trying to steal the watches from Leon, which goes horribly wrong.
Yeah.
So to speak. And he gets caught up as Leon. He finds out who is in back of the scheme to run all of these small business owners out of the Lower East Side. And it is amazingly, a Helen Mirren level hot Ellen Barkin.
Yeah.
I mean, if you got to be a gang boss, be Ellen Barkin. So he finds out about the plan. And the scheme, the scheme to steal Leon's watches comes off, but horribly somebody has to die when it happens. And and to give him his credit, he actually goes to the police and tries to confess the crime.
That's such a funny scene where he goes to the police to the apartment, and he's like, no, it was all right here, right? He's like, and they're like, okay, all right, yeah, and they just leave him alone.
And let me just say this. For you Adam Sandler fans, this is one of the funniest scenes he's ever done. This shit is actually very funny. It's probably the funniest scene that's in the movie. Because you know what? Okay, there is a great deal of seriousness in it, but this is not a heavy-handed movie, and there are a lot of lighter moments. And this is one of them where he actually goes to the police and he tries to confess. And he's telling them the story, and the cops are looking at each other like, they don't know what to make of this guy.
Yeah.
So then they go back to Leon's apartment, which is absolutely immaculate. There's nothing there.
Yeah.
And they, so they figured that he's just a loony. Then he goes back to his shop, and his bag is there. His bag, because he walks around with a bunch of different shoes in a bag, which is like his utility belt. in a way.
Yeah.
And I should also mention at this point that he does get a costume.
That's what I wish I realized. Yeah, as I'm watching it, because he's always wearing this trench coat with the scarf, and that's kind of like his costume.
Right. He wears this long gray trench coat with a black and white scarf.
Yeah.
So that's so we visually will know who he is whenever he's wearing, like a shoe, the shoes. But it's also like a costume.
Yeah.
To reinforce the superhero angle, much like in Unbreakable.
Right, with the slicker he wears.
Right, yeah, the slicker he wears. This is something that he can wear. He can just walk down the street in it, and doesn't look like a costume, but it is.
Right. Yeah.
So once he gets past the thing with Leon, now he's got to get involved in this thing with Ellen Barkin as the gang lord, trying to gentrify the Lower East Side. And he hooks back up with Carmen, and he says, okay, well, I'm going to take care of this. And he's got a scheme in order to pay off one of the people that she's trying to run out because he's got no money. He's a sick old man or whatever. And also to put her in jail.
Right.
So we watch. So this is the part of the movie where we see him where he's in full control of his superheroic abilities, and he's actually doing some good.
Yeah.
You know, for somebody. He's made that transition now.
And then he's abducted by the guy whose life he saved earlier as Leon, right? Because Leon's guys come into his place when he's portraying Leon, and they're like, "Oh, come on, we gotta go. We got Rat Prick." And they got this guy he's like, "Oh," and they're like, "He stole from you," and they're like beating the shit out of him. They're about to kill him, and
which is another very funny scene. It's very funny.
Yeah. And then Max as Leon, he goes up to this guy Rat Prick, and he's like, you know what you did was wrong, right? And he's like, yeah. He's like, you promise you're never gonna do it again. He's like, no, I promise, I'll never do it again. He's like, all right, let him go. They're like, yeah. And all the guys are like, wait, what? They're like, yeah, let him go. Like, but he stole from us. Yeah, but he apologized.
Yeah, but he's sorry. He said, and he told take him to the hospital.
Yeah, take him to the hospital. He looks kind of beat up.
Yeah, he said, you know, beat the shit out of him and everything like that. Take him to the hospital. And they can't believe it, but hey, he looks and sounds just like Leon. And may I say that Method Man does a great job in this movie because those scenes where he's playing Max, being him. So, you know, he's not actually playing the character that we were introduced to him as. He's got to play, and he does a wonderful job. He's very funny where he has to be funny.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Method Man's actually a pretty good actor. I mean,
he is.
I mean, he was in this. He was also in Keanu with Key and Peele. He was in Red Tails, apparently, which I never saw, but I heard was really good.
Yeah, Red Tails. Yeah, that was very good.
So yeah, I mean, he's done some movies where it's like, yeah, he's pretty good in a lot of this stuff. And this one, yeah, I didn't know this, but apparently he was in The Wire as well.
Really?
Yeah, he was in The Wire and he was in Oz.
You know what? It's been so long since I've seen either one, and I really keep saying to myself, you know what? I got to sit down. I got to watch The Wire again because I haven't seen it like in years since like it was originally on.
Yeah, and he was also in an episode of Burn Notice as well.
Oh, okay.
And he was in Garden State too. I didn't realize. And he had a cameo in Venom.
Listen, he's been in a ton of stuff.
Yeah.
Method Man. You know, if you look at his resume, you're surprised at how much stuff he's actually been in.
Wikipedia's got a whole entry just for his filmography.
Yeah. He's done a lot of stuff.
Yeah. But yeah, he's in fact, he's probably one of the better performances in this movie because there's not a lot. I actually started to doze off during this movie. It just I couldn't really. I think I had the same problem that a lot of people had with it, where it wasn't goofy enough to be like a funny Adam Sandler movie that I can enjoy, but at the same time, it also wasn't serious enough or good enough as a standalone movie to be something that I could really get. It kind of failed to meet both masters and either master, and so like that kind of turned me off a little bit to watching it.
And that's a fair assessment because you know what, and I can see why this movie did not succeed just because of those reasons that you named. You know, this because okay, when I say it's a superhero origin movie, some people will watch it and they will have a certain expectation,
right,
of what it is. But it's not that high. It's not a high octane movie.
No. In fact, the comparison you made to Unbreakable is really fitting. I didn't even think about that until you mentioned it. But you're right. It's very much that same style. It tries to be a lighthearted version of Unbreakable.
Exactly. That's what it is. It's that same kind of pacing.
Yeah.
And, you know, because we don't like rush to this big conclusion where, you know, there's a big fight and everything like that. As a matter of fact, the movie ends with the promise, at least to me, that there's going to be, you know, sequels.
Right. Same, just like Unbreakable did. Unbreakable had the same type of ending, right? It was like, this is a prequel to the superhero story. Exactly.
So, you know, for those of you who are listening, when you go into this movie, don't go into this with the expectation that you're going to see like a real high octane action movie with like a lot of fights and everything like that. It's not like that. It is more character based. Like Unbreakable, it's more about relationships. It's more about this guy, Max, because he starts out in the movie, he's talking to Steve Buscema, and he's saying, yeah, well, this is the shop that I've been running, and my father ran it, his father ran it, and I'm just doing it just because it's something that they did. He said, I want to find out what my thing is.
Right.
And when he finds out, you know, when he discovers that machine, and he learns about this ability, you know, and then he realizes this is his thing, which is reinforced by what happens at the end when, you know, his destiny, for lack of a better word, is revealed to him. And he realized that this is his thing. So, yeah, so that's what this movie is really about. It, you know, it's like you say, it's not goofy enough to satisfy the typical Adam Sandler fan, because I don't think the typical Adam Sandler fan, I would imagine, would sit here 15 minutes into it. They would say, "What the hell is this shit?"
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you know, and you know what, and there's some like the pickle thing, and it's explained at the end, so it makes sense when you get to the end. But the entire time I'm watching, I'm like, what the fuck is with this guy and all the goddamn pickles?
Yeah, exactly. Because he goes like, and even the girl Carmen mentioned that. She said, man, that's a lot of, because he's got like a case of pickles.
He goes and he buys who buys a friggin' case of pickles to eat on their own?
Yeah, who buys a case of pickles?
He's walking out of the store and she's like, what do you got there? He's like, pickles. Like, what the?
Yeah, and we see that in his shop. He has like a jar he keeps like on, you know, that he keeps there. He just I said, wait a minute, nobody loves pickles that damn much.
Yeah. And at the end, when he finds it, they're like, you know, here, eat a pickle, eat a pickle. Why are you trying to give me a pickle? And he's like, well, because pickles replenish your energy whenever you change bodies.
Right. And he just, oh, okay. Now we, you know, there's a payoff that you understand. Because while you're watching it, you will be saying to yourself, because I know I did the first time, I said, what is the deal with him and the damn pickles?
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
And then, you know what I think was kind of interesting here is how they take that whole, because that scene at the end, and they take the whole idea of like, you know, the Jewish conspiracy, right, from like the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, that like there's this secret cabal of Jewish people and they're trying to run the world and all that. They take that and they flip it.
Yeah.
Right. So there is this secret cabal of Jewish people, but they're not trying to, you know, kidnap children or drink blood or any of the other nonsense you see on the internet. But they're doing it because they're protecting their neighborhoods.
Yeah, yeah. And I thought that was a nice little thing. Like you said, they're interested in protecting neighborhoods, not necessarily, because if you start out protecting individual neighborhoods, it grows and grows, and eventually you end up protecting the world.
Right. Yeah. And they say, yeah, well, you know, it's not just us. There's a lot of tradesmen that like us. So it's like this whole idea of like, you know, these working class guys who are protecting the world basically.
Yeah. Except for dry cleaners.
Except for dry cleaners. Yeah.
Those guys are the worst. I got a good 15 minutes laughing about it. I had to pause the movie. I said, that shit is so true.
Yeah, I mean, there's some things I liked about it. Like I liked Dustin Hoffman. I liked Method Man. I liked Steve Buscemi. I liked Ellen Barkin too. She was good in it too.
Oh yeah.
Well. But like the whole, the burgeoning relationship with Carmen, it never goes anywhere. Right? It's almost like this forgotten plot point that just kind of gets dropped.
Well, we have the little teaser that we get where she asks him out to dinner.
Right,
and they exchange phone numbers, and that's about. But you know what? I kind of like that too, because there wasn't anything that was contrived to make them fall in love.
Yeah.
You know, right away, and I think it could be because, well, Adam Sandler always looks older than his co-stars anyway, his female co-stars, if you ask me, because his character does look like he's considerably older than she is.
Yeah, well, I think he is, because, she's actually younger than me. She was born in 1984. He was born in 1966. So, yeah, there's a pretty significant age difference there.
Yeah, so they exchanged phone numbers, but I appreciated the fact that the plot wasn't contrived to make them instantly fall in love.
and stuff like that, because they have a pretty like business-like relationship up until that ending where they exchange the phone numbers. And she says, oh, well, do you want to go out for dinner? And he says, and even then still, we're not getting any hint of a romance, but we're getting a hint that he's becoming more sociable and becoming more out, he's going to get out and meet people. And not because what I got previously was that he was a guy that just went to work and then came home and took care of his mother. And that was it.
Yeah.
Because we never hear him talk about having any friends or going out with the guys. He's definitely not dating.
The only friend he seems to have is Jimmy. Yeah, that's like the only friend he seems to have.
Right, exactly. So I took that when, that he's going to, that he's becoming more sociable, that he sees himself as part of a larger, now he does see himself as part of a larger community, because he's kind of like nasty, well, not even nasty, but she comes to him, and when they first meet, she wants to get him to sign the petition to, save the neighborhood, from the real estate guys that are coming in.
Yeah, and he's just kind of dismissive of her.
Yeah, and they're having this back and forth and everything like that. And he said, well, before you ask me any of these questions, you should have made sure that I really wanted to stay here.
Yeah.
And then she gives him this look like, okay, I can see you want to be a dick, fine. So they don't have, they don't start off being friends. There's no like meet cute.
Right, yeah.
And they have a pretty much business-like relationship up until the ending scene. Like I said, which I appreciated more than if they had stuffed in a manufactured, love kind of relationship. You know why? Because this movie already has enough going on already.
It's almost got too much going on, is what I think the thing is. And that's kind of why like these different so that's why the romance angle and all that gets kind of dropped, because it's just like, and for a movie that's only, it's under 100 minutes, it's like 98 minutes long total. And it just doesn't, it has more going on than it needs to for that.
There's a lot going on in this movie.
Yeah. And it doesn't really need that much going on.
Because we got the two villains.
Mm-hmm.
After we get rid of the one, there's still the other one. It's like he graduates from the low-level street thug to, the upper class, white collar crook.
Right. Yeah.
He he kind of like practices his powers on the low-level street thug, who is the Method Man character, and then he graduates to Ellen Barkin, who represents a higher level of crook. So,
and you know what? There was something I noticed in that when he first walks into Ellen Barkin's house, and he's disguised as Leon, and he looks up at her daughter, and her daughter flicks him off. Like, yeah, I'm wondering, did he have something? Did Leon maybe have something going on with that daughter?
Yeah, that's how I interpret it.
That's what I thought too. Yeah,
he had something going on with the daughter,
and I thought that might have become a plot point. That's something else that's just kind of dropped. So that's why I was wondering if maybe it was just showing that, she's just like her mom and that she's a hard ass type of thing.
Well, I wouldn't put it past that either, But we never see the daughter after that. We just see her for that one brief scene, and then, she's never mentioned again.
Yeah. And he got the whole thing with Macy, played by Dasha Polanco from Orange is the New Black. And that's also something else where, there's this little thing where you think there might be something bigger that they're going towards with it, but it's just kind of resolved really quickly in the end. Leon's girlfriend.
Right. Oh, yeah, when he goes back and he just gives her like a bunch of the watches.
Yeah.
And he just, yeah.
They open a lot of boxes and then they just like shut them really quickly. And so, yeah, the script feels a little bit schizophrenic in that way. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. There's definitely some things that could have been trimmed, like the whole thing with the girlfriend, Leon's girlfriend. Because it really is no reason for her to be in the movie.
No,
there really
not at all.
is. When you think about it and you say, well, you know what? You know the reason why she's there?
Why?
So that Max knows what apartment Leon lives in.
That and also just to show what a dick Leon is. I think that's the other reason.
Yeah,
but yeah,
because,
that's it.
Right, because he knows what floor Leon went to, but he has no other way. But she's got one of her bags that is propping open the door for whatever reason. Well, the only reason is that so Max knows that that's the apartment to go to.
There's a lot of contrivance in this film. Like there's a lot of scenes that happen just because the plot needs them to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Like that when it's like, oh, it just so happens to be the one apartment that has the door propped open.
Yeah.
And there was another one too that I was thinking of. When he runs into Emiliano right outside Emiliano's apartment.
Yeah, right. He just happens to run
into him when he wants to pose to the guy to find his girlfriend. So it's
right.
Like there's a lot of that kind of stuff that happens in this movie.
And he has to take off one of his shoes real quick so that he can look like himself.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, they got a lot of they're like, oh, fuck it, we just need the plot to do this for us.
Yeah, exactly. We just got to keep the plot moving, folks. So we're gonna have this happen. But but I don't know. I find me. I find it hard to criticize a movie when it's got its heart in the right place.
Right.
And this movie does. It has its heart in the right place. In that, okay, going back to what I said earlier, it's a genuine human performance from Adam Sandler. Mm-hmm. He's not acting. I love the scene where he's in the backyard, him and Steve Buscemi, and they're talking, and he's talking about his life.
Yeah, that is a really good scene.
Yeah, that's a really heartfelt scene, and it doesn't feel forced. It's one of those scenes that show that when he wants to, Adam Sandler can act.
Yeah, he can. And we've mentioned him before and talked about how that his whole shtick he does because that's what pays the bills basically. And you can't fault him for that. Like he knows what his audience wants and he gives it to them. And respect to him for giving them what they want. But he does have these movies where he proves that he is beyond that, like Punch Drunk Love, like Spanglish. I think you also mentioned, I haven't seen it, but you mentioned Reign Over Me, I think it was called.
Reign Over Me, yeah.
Yeah. So he does have this ability to be in these more serious roles. It's just that it's more of a choice for him to do like the goofy man baby shtick.
Yeah, and like you said, those are the roles that pay the bills.
Exactly, yeah.
As I said earlier, I can just imagine that those who are those who are fans of his toilet humor and his usual man baby kind of shtick and everything like that, they go see this and they probably did not know what to make of it. Matter of fact, they did not market this movie properly at all because they didn't know what type of movie it was.
Right, yeah.
Really, I don't think anybody really knew what type of movie this was, which is why I got dumped on Netflix so fast.
Yeah, and it was a limited release, so very few theaters and just released on VOD, so like Netflix, iTunes, Amazon, all that type of stuff.
Right, and I don't think that anybody I don't think anybody saw this who made the connection and said, hey, you know something? We can make a ton of money if we market this as an Adam Sandler playing a superhero. Mm-hmm. And nobody thought to do that. And
no.
Now, would anybody have bought it? I don't know. But again, going back to the correlation between this and Unbreakable. Unbreakable wasn't marketed as a superhero movie. Just like Unbreakable, this was just marketed as the new Adam Sandler movie. That
exactly.
Was it.
Yeah.
They didn't say, exactly what it was about. Same way that Unbreakable was just marketed as the new M. Night Shyamalan movie, and that was it. They didn't tell you what it was about. You had to go see it.
And apparently this was the biggest flop of Sandler's career.
Oh, yeah. Oh, sure it was.
Yeah. And like I said, like you're not really pleasing any audience here.
Yeah, because I can truly understand why this was a flop because this was so unlike anything before or since that Adam Sandler has made. He's never made another movie like this again.
No.
Yeah.
Well, he made I don't know. I never saw it, but he also made right after this. He made Men, Women, and Children, which I've heard is also kind of like in the same realm where it doesn't know if it's not funny enough to be like really funny, and it's too cliched to be like really serious.
Oh, okay. See, I've never even heard of that.
I never heard of it either, but I just saw it on Wikipedia. It says that he shot this film right before he began Men, Women, and Children, which was directed by Jason Reitman.
But then again, you'll take another. What was that really truly wretched movie he made where he played twins?
I don't know. I don't think I saw that one. I can't remember.
Oh man! And everybody went to see that piece of shit.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It was what was the name of that movie? It was a movie where he played twins, and it was a horrible movie. But yeah, but everybody loved that one.
Yeah,
and nobody went to see this one. So listen. You know what? I do. Unlike most people, I do not fault an artist for when they keep making the same movie over and over. Like you'll hear that they say, "Well, I hate him. He makes the same movie over and over again." Yeah, but every time he makes the same movie over and over again, he gets $100 million open the weekend. So
well, actually, he looks like he did something else called Uncut Gems. It's a crime thriller.
Oh my God! Don't mention that movie to me.
Is it bad?
You know what? Okay. Patricia and I watched that because neither one of us particularly. I think she made like Adam Sandler a little bit more than I do. But anyway, we wanted to watch this movie. It was on Netflix. Everybody was talking about how great it was. That was the movie that they were talking about that he might finally win the Academy Award for Best Actor.
Right.
That was one of the most. It was 2 hours of him playing 1980s Al Pacino.
Oh, okay.
This is one of those movies that I look at it and I honestly do not understand what everybody sees in it that was supposed to be so good. It was a terrible movie.
Oh, so I think I found the one that you're talking about where he plays two characters. Jack and Jill?
Yeah, Jack and Jill.
Where he plays his own sister.
Right. Yeah, Jack and Jill.
Okay. Yeah, I heard that was terrible.
Terrible is not the word for it. It's one of them movies, and I got a favorite phrase that Patricia, she gets tired of hearing me saying, but I always say when I watch something like that, I say, you know what? Somebody actually got paid to write this shit.
Yeah, I've definitely had those moments. I'm like, you know what? I'm struggling to get my books out, and then someone gets paid to write this shit while he's high on the crapper.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's all I say. Somebody actually got paid for that.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, but hey, it is what it is. But I can see why this movie was not a success, why a lot of people didn't go see it. And me personally, I think it's a shame because it's one of those anomalies like Unbreakable. I hate to keep coming back to that, folks, but really that is the only movie that, now, mind you, I am not saying that The Cobbler is as good as Unbreakable.
No, definitely not.
I am not saying that. What I am saying is that I think that if you watch The Cobbler, you will see that there are definitely some similarities to Unbreakable. There's a certain style there. There's a certain way that this story unfolds that reminded me of Unbreakable. And I think that, like Unbreakable, it is one of these anomalies that pop up every once in a while that, yeah, you don't think of it as being a superhero movie, but then the more you watch it, the more you say, yeah, okay, yeah. It is a superhero movie.
It is. Like I said, it's a lighthearted, poorly written version of Unbreakable.
Yeah.
That's basically what it is. And it's the same idea. You got this normal working class guy who discovers he's got this ability, and as he's learning about the ability, he slowly gets wrapped up in other things, slowly discovers he can use this to do some good in the world. That's exactly what happens in Unbreakable.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same. And if you're an Adam Sandler fan and you want to watch him as something different, yeah, this is decidedly a different, side of Adam Sandler. He really gets it. Really, it's one of my. I have very few favorite Adam Sandler movies, but this is one of my favorite ones. It really is. I really do like this movie a lot.
Okay.
I would not
go that far myself, but but I like Adam Sandler more than you do. So
I really wish that that we could have had more movies about Max. Because when we get to the ending, which pretty much puts a stamp on what the movie actually is about. It teases you all the way through, but once we get to that ending, like the last 10 minutes of the movie, it like kind of like, okay, it rubber stamps that, yeah, this is a superhero movie.
Exactly.
And, and it sets it up, for, future movies. I really would, and I don't say that a lot. Yeah, well, I wish I could see a sequel, but I wish I could have seen a sequel to this.
I was thinking the same thing, because the entire time I'm watching it, I'm just like, man, I'm gonna roast Derrick over the fact this isn't a superhero movie at all. But then you get to that last scene, I'm like, oh, okay, I get it now.
Yeah.
So
it sets it up all the way through the movie, starting right when you said right when those Jewish guys are sitting around the table, and then we hear the story about how Max's family got this
magic stitcher, for lack of a better term.
Stitcher, yeah. It sets it up all the way through, and with him getting the costume, and it's all these little superhero tropes that we are used to seeing in other types of movies. If we had seen all of this in another type of movie, we would have said, okay, yeah, sure, superhero movie. Right. But because it's Adam Sandler and he's playing such a realistic character, and the movie is so low energy, it's not a high octane movie with explosions and gunfights and stuff like that, we don't make that correlation.
Right, yeah.
That this is a superhero movie, yeah.
It doesn't, like I said, it doesn't go far enough in either direction. It doesn't meet that people who are just looking for a dumb Adam Sandler comedy, and it doesn't appease the people who want something more serious. And, to add a third point to that triangle, that it doesn't have enough going on, enough action or enough excitement for it to really appease superhero fans. So it really doesn't know what kind of movie it wants to be.
Exactly. I agree with you 100%. However, I am going to maintain that for our fans and our loyal listeners, I urge you to watch this movie. If you have I'm not going to say that it's a classic of the genre that you have to watch.
Yeah.
But I would hope that the discussion Perry and I have had, that it would pique your curiosity, that you would want to give it a try, because it is worth checking out at least once, I think.
I'd agree with that. Yeah, like I didn't like it as much as you did, but I don't feel like I completely wasted my time.
Good.
Yeah, it's not like, because I read the reviews and I'm like, oh god, this is gonna be such a piece of shit. I'm gonna get pissed off at Derrick. We're never gonna work together again after this. And then, but then I watched it, and I'm thinking to myself, this is revenge because I made him watch Daredevil and Deadpool. But I watched it, and I'm like, okay, it's not great, but it's not terrible either.
No, exactly.
It's got enough entertainment value where I didn't hate it. That's basically another way of saying, like, you know what, if you're gonna watch something, you're not completely wasting your time with this. There are better movies to watch as well, but there's also a lot worse you could do.
Okay, listen. As long as you feel that your time wasn't wasted, I'm satisfied. That's
right.
No, really. I mean, hey, folks, trust me. Anything I recommend, I wouldn't recommend it if I thought it was going to waste your time. And I sincerely believe you would not be wasting your time watching The Cobbler. Mm-hmm. Even, you know what? I'm going to go so far as that. Even if you're not an Adam Sandler fan, give this one a try, because it's different. It's a different Adam Sandler.
And you're the prime example of that, because, like you said, you're not an Adam Sandler fan.
Yeah, I'm not Adam Sandler, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed his performance. I enjoyed his performance, period, a lot.
I'd say if, especially if you're not an Adam Sandler fan, you should give this a try.
Yeah.
Because if you're an Adam Sandler fan, you will probably be disappointed. But if you're not, then you might say, like, oh, okay, I didn't know he had this kind of performance in him.
This is the Adam Sandler movie for people who don't like Adam Sandler.
Exactly.
Much like Punch Drunk Love and, Reign Over Me,
Right. Yeah.
And again, I'm not saying that this movie is in their league, but it's a different Adam Sandler who will probably end up surprising you just like he surprised me.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Anything else you want to touch on with this film? We're kind of clocking a little short. Not as much to talk about with this movie.
Yeah. Because, well, you know what? It's not, our usual movie.
Right.
And really, we can't go into too much detail about this because, as you so wisely pointed out, unlike most of our other movies, we could just jump in and we could just ramble on and on because, we talk about movies that 99% of the world has seen. A lot of people haven't seen this movie, and that's why I deliberately have stayed away from any discussion of a lot. Because believe it or not, folks, and Perry even said it, there's a lot that goes on in this movie. As much as we've talked about, there's a lot of other plot points that we did not mention, which is important for you to see in order to have the full enjoyment of the movie, especially the ending. Like I said, which puts the rubber stamp on it.
There is a twist ending, which, you know what? Did you figure out the twist before?
No, I did not.
Oh, okay.
When it happened, I said, oh, shit. I did. I said, oh, shit, out loud. I was like, wow.
I think I figured it out shortly after his mother died.
Okay.
There's a scene there that I'm like, oh, yeah, I think that's what's going on there.
Okay.
And then when it happened at the end, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I was right.
Okay, well, you're younger and smarter anyway, so.
Well, the funny thing is, like, I usually don't see those twists coming. So when I do, I'm just like, hey, I got it.
Yeah, no, I honestly didn't get it, and know what? I was happy I didn't get it because I was so pleasantly surprised with it and pleased at how the movie ended.
Yeah.
I should also mention that you know what? You don't get a lot of Jewish superheroes.
No.
You don't see a lot of Jewish superhero movies,
especially unapologetically Jewish, like this is.
Yeah.
Like they really play into the whole stuff with the Torah and the angel, and that they don't shy away from the fact that these people are Jewish.
Yeah, and proud of it.
Very proud of it. Yeah.
Proud of it, which I like. Having Jewish friends who I love and revere. Yeah, I said, wow, that's really, I thought it was cool. I did
too. That was actually one of the things, like, even though I didn't care much for the film as a whole, I did think it had a great ending. It really stuck the ending.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's like, the movie Adaptation with Nicolas Cage and who's his name? Brian Cox. He plays Robert McKee in that. Who is, the famous screenwriting teacher, and he tells Nicolas Cage goes to him for writing advice, and he tells Nicolas Cage at one point, he's like, wow him in the end. He's like, you know what, you can have the beginning, the middle, those can be shit, but if you wow him in the end, you've got a hit. And he was right. Like this, if not for this ending, I would have probably hated this movie and never spoken to you again.
Yeah. Oh, well, you know something? If it had been for the ending, I wouldn't have recommended it. But once you get to that ending, and it's like all of these threads are tied up very neatly and very compactly, and you say, oh, and then you think back, and I said, oh, well, of course that's where they was. Of course that's what this is.
Yeah.
The superhero origin movie. Of course. Okay.
Yeah.
I got it.
And like I said before, I love the twist on the Jewish conspiracy theory that they put on that. I think that was my favorite part of the movie.
Yeah. It really is you know what? I really hope that a lot of people do check this out because it's a nice movie.
Right. And it's
a nice movie.
And like I said, it's like under 100 minutes, so you're not going to be wasting a whole lot of time.
And if you want something different from the big budget $500 trillion CGI blockbusters, and you want to see a more down-to-earth superhero movie, a more human superhero movie, this is definitely a street-level superhero movie.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. You can see this guy working in the same neighborhood that the Netflix Marvel characters worked in.
Maybe I'd probably go more with maybe not as dark, but yeah, definitely.
Yeah, not as dark, but no, I was talking about like the street level angle.
Yeah.
This isn't about some mastermind trying to take over the world or
right.
Or some high tech criminal with a suit of armor terrorizing the neighborhood. It's very neighborhood concerns and very neighborhood problems.
Right. This is just a guy who's trying to help his neighborhood.
Right. Exactly. It's like I said, it's a down to earth neighborhood type of superhero movie, which is what we need. I remember years ago reading it in Avengers, and Spider-Man had been missing for a number of, he had been missing for like 6 months, something like that. So the Avengers, they had, people out trying to find him, and they were looking for him. They were making inquiries, and it was somebody, I forget who it was, but they asked Iron Man, they said, well, why are we wasting all this time looking for Spider-Man? Should we do it? And Iron Man says to them, listen, Spider-Man is very important. So Spider-Man is not out there on the street, keeping the street level crime down, then we have to do that.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I never liked them making characters like Spider-Man or Daredevil or Luke Cage Avengers.
No, characters like that should never be Avengers.
Yeah, they belong on the streets. Because that was one of my favorite moments of Spider-Man Homecoming was when he tells Tony that, I'd rather stay on the ground, be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Because that's what he's supposed to do. He's supposed to be keeping an eye out for the little guy.
Right. That's why he's your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, not your friendly cosmic, Spider-Man. And when I say that to people say, oh, so you don't think that Luke Cage is good enough to be in there? No, that's not the point. Nobody said he wasn't good enough, but that's his thing. That's his niche. He's out there taking care of the street level crime. He's taking care of the people that the Avengers are too busy to take care of because they're out in space fighting Thanos and, the Kree or whoever.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what they do. This is what he does.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, and that's who I see this character as being in that vein, in that, he's on the street taking care of, street problems because, the biggest superheroes, if there are superheroes in this world, they're not taking care of that.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, I agree completely. All right, so I think that about wraps it up for our discussion about the Cobbler.
Yeah.
I mean,
because you know what? Next week, we're probably going to be taking 2 or 3 hours with Civil War.
Oh yeah. Because what we gotta go into, and because we're doing it like I chose that movie because I felt like we need to talk more about Chadwick Boseman and how much he brought to the role of Black Panther and how much he meant to not only this generation of fans, but generations going forward. Because this is going to be a performance like Christopher Reeve that people are talking about long after.
Absolutely.
And so we're planning on getting to all the MCU movies eventually, but Civil War definitely at this point, I think this is one that we definitely need to talk about and to talk about not only Boseman's performance, but there is so much in that movie. So we're going to have a lot to talk about in the next episode.
Yeah, because this is the movie. Usually when I talk to a lot of people and I ask them what is their favorite or what do they think is the best MCU movie, they'll either say Winter Soldier or this one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And for a while, I was one of those people who would say that as well. In time, Endgame is obviously surpassed.
Yeah.
My opinion on Civil War, I still love it, but it's cooled a little in comparison to some of the other movies.
It works. It works for me. I love it because it works both as a Captain America movie and as an Avengers movie.
Yes,
you can take it either way.
Yeah, exactly. And it also has one of the best. It switches the formula more than any other MCU movie has. I think pretty much more than any other MCU movie, because in all the other MCU movies, there's this mid-fight scene in the middle of the movie, and then there's this big epic fight scene at the end of the movie. This movie flips it, right? It puts the big epic scene right in the middle of the movie, and then yeah.
I mean, for many years, that was the best superhero fight scene on film.
Oh yeah.
That was it.
I mean, even the Wakanda fight scene in Infinity War, I don't think matches the airport scene.
No, yeah.
The only
as good as it was, yeah.
As good as it was, yeah. The only thing that gets better is the big fight at the end of Endgame.
Yeah. Well, that's like the brawl for it all.
Oh God, nobody's ever going to top that.
Nobody is ever going to top that fight. And you know what? Don't even try.
Yeah.
Nobody. That thing is like going to stand for like. And again, going back to what you said earlier about how you thought that when now that Iron Man, Tony Stark was gone, that T'Challa, the Black Panther, was going to take over. He's the first hero to come back.
Exactly, right? He's you hear Sam's voice over the communicator, but the first person to walk through that portal is T'Challa.
And there's a reason for that.
Yeah, that look between Cap and T'Challa, and that's a passing of the torch, basically.
And you want to talk about, I still remember, I saw that 3 times in the movie theater. And every time that happened, when T'Challa was the first one to step through that portal, the theater went absolute batshit insane.
Absolutely, yeah.
Every single time.
Yes, yeah. And I'm one of those people, every time I see that happen, every time I watch T'Challa come out of that portal, I'm just like, oh yeah, shit's about to go down.
Oh, shit's about to get real now.
Yeah.
Oh man, just so phenomenal. So phenomenal. But yeah, I think we can afford to be a little short with this episode because Civil War is going to be at least 2 hours.
Yeah. You guys are anyone who's like that, he was like, oh, we want our money back that we didn't pay. We'll get you. Got you covered next week.
No, but you know what? I think it's going to be like that with any MCU movie that we discuss because now we have the benefit of looking at it from, we've had time to internalize a lot of the subtext of the older movies.
Yeah.
So now we can go back and say, okay, I can see how this paid off later on, down the road in this movie.
And plus, you and I, we've seen these movies multiple times. So they're like, I mean, like I've lost count of how many times I've seen Endgame. So like, I mean, you could put that movie on, hit the mute button, and I could quote it verbatim, and I'd not get anything wrong.
I've seen. Okay, first of all, I've got them all on Blu-ray, and these are like movies that I can watch it. It gets to the end credits. I put the damn movie right back to the beginning and start watching it all over again.
I have done that with Endgame. Yeah.
Endgame, Civil War, Black Panther, Ant-Man.
And I've done that thing where I'm just like, where like you're like, oh, I'll just watch one movie, and then it's like potato chips, and then the next thing you know, you're putting on it's like 3 a.m, and you've watched like 5 movies.
Yeah, I've done that. Yeah, several times. I said, well, you know what? I'm just gonna watch.
Yeah.
Captain
America. Well, it's funny because
Captain America.
I never actually think I'm gonna watch Age of Ultron. But if I watch the Avengers or Civil War or something like that, then I'm like, you know what? I want to watch Age of Ultron again now.
Well, you know what? Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
I mean, like me, I cannot watch. To date, I have not just watched one Thor movie. Like if I watch Thor, I'm watching the other 2. That's it. There's no, it's not even a question. It's not even an issue. It's not like I say, okay, well, I'm gonna just watch Thor. And that's it. No, I sit there and as soon as I'm finished that, I'm putting in the Dark World. As soon as the Dark World is over, Ragnarok's going in there. It's 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, Patricia's screaming at me, take your ass to bed already. Steam that,
Yeah.
Wait a minute, 10 more minutes. They're about to blow up Asgard.
Man, you know what? It's a good thing you guys never had kids because, you and the kid would be ganging up on Patricia. It's like, 10 more minutes.
Oh, that's what she says. So you know what? She says, no, she said, it's a good thing we didn't have kids because you're enough.
Yeah. And I guarantee you that's what's going to happen with me and my kid. Like, we're going to get to that point where it's like we're watching, like, the kid's going to come out watching Endgame with me late at night, and Kotono's going to come out screaming at us, kids got school in the morning. What are you doing? I'm like, we're almost done with this movie. Come on.
Wait a minute. School, I am educating the child.
Yeah.
This is the education in pop culture. Because a lot of times, you know what? Because, okay, Patricia has always said one of the things that she loves about our relationship that we have is that when she was growing up, she had a very strict Pentecostal upbringing, and she was not exposed to a lot of pop culture. And she says, "Oh, I exposed her to a lot of stuff that she missed, and she enjoyed it." And she said, "Yeah," she said, if we had kids, she said that would have been good that you could have taught our kids all of this stuff. Yeah, because she said, "Yeah, this stuff is cool." Yeah. So so your child will get an education.
Oh yeah. My kid's gonna grow up like having comic books read to them. So they're gonna grow up like listening to like Beatles songs instead of lullabies and that kind of stuff. So yeah, they're definitely gonna have a pop culture upbringing.
And see, this stuff now is not like when I was coming up that like if you still read comic books past a certain age, people looked at you like kind of funny, like
oh yeah,
with you. But now this stuff is all mainstream,
right? Exactly.
So so it's not like your kid is going to grow up being stigmatized because they know who all the Avengers were before they knew the ABCs,
right?
I mean, stuff like that. Kids don't have to live with that stigma anymore of loving comic books and cartoons and superhero movies and video games and all that kind of stuff, because that stuff is all mainstream. They're growing up with this stuff now, which I think is great. I wish I could have grew up with all this stuff, like they're doing.
There are some students at one of my schools who are under the age of 20, right? And so when they're like 15, 16, and when they told me about, I grew up watching like Iron Man. It was like the first movie I ever saw. I'm like, how is that? Oh, wow. Yeah. And I think about it, I'm like, oh yeah, I can see how that's possible. But yeah, this is, it's, and because it's so mainstream, like this is their Star Wars.
Yeah, exactly.
And like growing up, like my parents were never like pop culture fiends. Like my mom, she watched movies when they came on TV, right? My dad, he liked James Bond movies, he liked war movies, and that was about it. Other than that, he was just like pretty much a TV guy. Like they didn't have any pop culture they were passionate about or anything like that.
Oh, okay.
So I never grew up with that in my house. Like definitely not as strict as Patricia, but that same kind of idea where it's like pop culture was just not really a part of our family dynamic. Like it was something my sister and I discovered on our own.
It was frivolous.
Exactly. Yeah.
It was frivolous. It was, yeah. I was fortunate in that I had parents that loved movies, and they shared that with me. And my father was both my parents were big readers, but my father was like into the stuff like, James Bond.
Right.
And Shel Scott and Matt Helm and stuff like that. And, and he would read the books and then he would pass them on to me.
Yeah. I can definitely see myself doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So, so I was fortunate in that, they did comic books. They couldn't see the point in comic books. They said, what are you still reading that crap for? But everything else, they were pretty cool. Like I would be sitting there reading science fiction books or something like that. They was cool with that. They loved to see me read books. Well, they were big readers themselves. So,
well, they never, my parents didn't necessarily approve of it, but they didn't disapprove of it either. I think yours were probably the same way, where it's just like, oh, why are you reading that? And then just walk away.
Yeah, right, exactly.
They didn't. Yeah, it was never like oh no, I'm gonna take your comic books away or anything like nothing like that at all.
Well, they did it. Okay, my father would take my comic books away because he was a big math guy.
Oh, okay.
To hear, and math was my worst subject. Math still I have no use for math. I'm sorry. As long as I can count my change after I come out of the store, that's it. But all that's multiplication, subtraction, division, cool. Anything past that, geometry, algebra, and all that other crap, I didn't know. Oh, but my father was a big math guy. So, like, if I came home with a bad report card in math, then he would take away my comic.
Well, I mean, that's understandable because when it's affecting your grades, that's a different story.
Yeah.
Like that I understand that part.
Yeah. So it didn't matter. My grades was good and everything else. But Dad, look, I got an A. Nope. He said, bring comic books here. And he would make me gather them up and bring them to him, too. Add insult to injury.
Yeah.
He said, bring them here. I was like, oh, shit. Okay, here you go. And don't let me try to hide a couple, which I did one time. And I never did that again. He found them. Never did that again.
But I do the pop culture education with Kokono's. In fact, you know what? I was watching Cobra Kai the other night on Netflix, which is I'm not sure if you've seen it, but it's really good. It's the Karate Kid revival. So you got William Zabka and Ralph Macchio as men in their 40s or whatever, 40s or 50s, whatever it is.
Oh, I've heard of it.
It's really good, and it's really consumable too, because the episodes are only like 20 to 30 minutes apiece.
Because it started out as a YouTube thing, right?
Right. Yeah. So now it's on Netflix. So we started watching the other night, and Kotono comes in. She's like, "What are you watching?" I'm like, "Cobra Kai." She's like, "What's that?" I'm like, "Oh, it's the Karate Kid sequel," and which they called it Best Kid here in Japan. And she's like, "Oh, really?" I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "Oh, okay." And we're watching it. I'm like, "Oh, you remember this part from the?" And she's like, "No." I'm like, "What?" And I'm like, "You remember this part?" She's like, "No." I'm like, "You don't remember Sweep the Leg, Johnny?" And she's like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, Karate Kid. And she's like, I never saw the. And she's like, "Oh, I never saw the movie." I'm like, "How did you not see that movie?" So now I got to go get Karate Kid and show it to her.
Yeah. Matter of fact, I see that Patricia on the DVR, she's got, she has the Karate Kid on there, which, so I guess she's planning on us watching that before because she loves those movies. I never was much of a big Karate Kid fan. I saw them, they're okay, but they didn't.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're not like amazing movies or anything like that, but it's just like for people like me who grew up during that time, like it's a cultural touchstone.
Right, exactly. And I recognize that even though they didn't do much for me.
I mean, because that movie, combined that movie with, then you got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, then you got Power Rangers, like that. That is basically what opened up 1,000 martial arts schools in America for kids.
Yeah.
And that was the thing. When I was in elementary school, everybody was taking some kind of martial arts class. It was karate or taekwondo or whatever. Like everybody was taking some type of martial arts back then.
Oh yeah. Well, listen, I remember back in the 70s when the when the kung fu craze.
Oh yeah.
When they hit the country. That's when I started taking karate. I took karate for a few years, but everybody was taking karate.
Yeah.
That was, I mean, that was the thing. Everybody took it. So.
Okay, so I think we kind of rambled on enough for the the post credit. I think we rambled more at the end of the episode than we did about the actual movie.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
But anyway,
that's
okay.
Listen,
yeah.
As long as they find it entertaining.
Yeah. So, head on over to Superhero Cinephiles on Facebook. Join the discussion. Again, if you want to contribute and make sure that we watch a movie that you've actually seen for our live commentary 50th episode, then you got to get your ass into that group and you got to make those suggestions, because otherwise Derrick's going to pick some shit like the Cobbler that you've never heard of.
You trust me, you do not want. Keep telling y'all every episode when we record this, and we make this plea, you do not want to leave it up to me. I'm trying to tell you, you have been warned.
Yeah. All right. And also, rewatch Civil War for our next episode, and we'll be back next week to talk about that. And that about does it for now. Thanks so much, and we will see you next time.
Okay, good night. God bless. Thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening to the Superhero Cinephiles podcast. If you have any questions or comments about this or any other episode, or if you have a superhero movie or TV show you'd like us to cover in a future episode, you can email us at superherocinephiles@gmail.com, or you can also visit us on the web at superherocinephiles.com. If you like what you hear, leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts. Each review helps us reach more potential listeners. You can also support the show by renting or purchasing the movies discussed, or by picking up our books, all of which can be accessed through the website, as well as find links to our social media presences. The theme music for this show is a shortened version of Superhero Showdown, a royalty-free piece of music courtesy of BesleonStudios.com.